So we did tax returns, and I moved to different computer-based things and worked in the IT section. And
well, why don't we have you and Lee actually have a chat about this? Lee, what would you be asking Linda if she came to you and said, "Look, I'm looking to bounce. How do I do it?"
Hi, Linda. The key, this can be a long conversation, so we'll try to keep it short and fairly basic. But one of the things you can do is take a look at the work you've done over the last while, and what kinds of examples can you give that indicate that you did a really good job. What did you do? What was the situation? What difference did you make? What kind of result did you get? It could be that you're part of a team, and a lot of people work in teams, so we tend to talk about we. Well, what did you actually do? What was your contribution to the team? What was your contribution to the people you worked with, to your customers, whether they were internal customers or outside, or clients? Take a really good look at the kinds of work that you did, and you will realize that you offered a lot, that you have a lot to offer, and that whatever kind of work you want to do next, whether it's the same kind of field or a different kind of field, that you will take those kinds of skills and attitudes with you, and that you have something to offer to people. But you need to be clear about what that is, because if you're not clear, nobody else will be able to pick it up.
Have you done this kind of an analysis on yourself, Linda?
No, not well, I sort of think about it, but I don't know how that sort of translates.
It is kind of difficult. As Lee said, it would take a lot longer to get into an in-depth conversation about it.
Can I?
Absolutely. Jump in.
One of the things that I find works well is to select people today. Linda, are you working today?
Just in a sales job.
Okay, so whatever it is that you're doing today, pick 5 people and just say to them, in 1 minute or less, tell me what it is that I do really well. And just try that. It's amazing what you're going to find out. Number one, I think the kind of feedback you're going to get is going to make you feel good. And secondly, what you're going to find out is a little bit more about what is it that people really enjoy about working with you.
Right. Now, does any of that sound familiar, Linda?
Yeah. Well, you know what, people that are happy and reliable and dependable, and
yeah.
But I need to find a passion.
Well, this is the tough part, and as a matter of fact, the book Learn to Bounce, I'm going to get that before this break is over.
I think it's about being in your 40s. You sort of think, well, what have I been doing this all for?
And by that point too, you might even be getting a little hazy about what it is you're passionate about because you've been busy doing something else for so long.
Right.
Is it like that?
Yeah, sort of.
So you're not really sure what kind of a field you'd like to go into?
Right, but I got the next 40 years ahead of me, so we've got to find something we love.
Well, true enough. And by the way, don't forget the website for the book is learntobounce.com.
Okay,
so you might want to have a look at that. Thanks a lot, Linda, and best of luck. I hope you give us a call back too and let us know what happens.
Take care, James.
You too.
Bye-bye.
There's a word, because when we're talking about bouncing back, you're not just talking about getting another gig. You're talking about seizing an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the opportunity and how you seize it.
Well, I think the first thing is to see a setback as an opportunity. The doors are open in many ways, as difficult as it may be for people at the beginning. They can start looking around. Opportunities tend to show up when we actually look for them. Mm-hmm. They may be there all along, but we're not paying attention. So part of that is just the attitude. It's the old glass is half full rather than half empty. In any situation, what can I learn from this, and what doors have opened for me, is a question you can ask yourself and try to answer. And you may not have the full answer right away, but as you go along, if you have that question, you'll find more doors open, more connections with people, fewer restrictions in terms of what you can do. How much luxury you've got depends on your financial situation, whether you got a package and so on. Some people need a job right away to get a job, but there's a difference between a job and work you want to do. And if you have the two of those together, that's great. If not, take the job and then take the time to take a good look at yourself. And you may need some help to do that. You can do a certain amount on your own. There are all kinds of books out there that can help, but certainly working with someone who knows what they're doing. This can be a real asset, because they will help you take a look at yourself in a way that you don't.
Well, we'll return to that in a moment. We want to talk to Paul now. Paul, are you with us? Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Thanks for giving us a call tonight. How are you doing?
Good. How are yourself?
Oh, just fantastic.
Good.
What's your experience with the issue of layoffs? Has it ever happened to you?
Yes, actually, a few years ago I was working in a hospital, and I worked there for 13 years, and then I was laid off. I was so surprised, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Wanted to bury my head in the sand.
Right.
And basically, it was a tough time, and the hardest thing I had to do was when it was time to go to unemployment.
Right.
They don't make you feel good about going there and getting in line. I mean, it's not a good feeling.
Right.
I did that, and after about a year, I kept positive, and I got back into the workplace myself.
Right.
And went back to doing what I do. I'm actually a dietary aide.
Well, how did you make the switch to dietary aid from what you'd been doing before?
Well, when I was working at the hospital, I was working in the kitchen.
Okay.
In the cafeteria kitchen.
Right.
And then basically I went and I got a job in a nursing home taking care of elderly people.
Right.
And that's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Well, how did you wrap your head around making that jump from the one job to the other?
Well, like I said, I was off for a year.
But did you use that time to think about what it is you wanted to do and to use it as an opportunity to maybe make a change that for the better?
Well, I did think about making a change, but I thought to myself, well, I'm kind of good at what I do.
Yeah.
So I may as well stick to my guns and, keep going and don't give up. It was hard when it first happened.
Right.
When I lost my job. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm not giving up.
And we've just got about 30 seconds to the break, Paul, but briefly, what would your advice to somebody in a similar position be?
I would say hold your chin up.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Well, that sounds great, Paul, and thank you so much for the call, and I'm glad things have worked out for you. You have a great evening.
You too.
Keep your chin up. I think something like that is in the book, and we'll talk about that when we return. The subject is learning to bounce from a job loss. If you've been laid off and you need to find something new, this might be the show for you. Give us a call at 7. One door closes, another opens, but it's very difficult to keep in mind when you've experienced a job loss. It seems catastrophic. The state of mind that goes with it is, what am I going to do now? And there are no ready answers. Well, we're talking about that tonight with the authors of a book called Learn to Bounce, which is From a High-Tech Layoff to Your Ideal Work. It treats being laid off as an opportunity, not a cataclysm, and we want to know what questions you have on that subject and what experiences you have that you could share with us. If you've been laid off or know somebody who has, and you think you have something to offer in terms of either positive advice or an incisive question, then by all means get on the blower and give us a call. Again, that's 728-1001. Lee, before we went to break, or as we went to break, you were mentioning that our previous two callers, Linda and Paul, represented kind of either end of an emotional spectrum that you end up in when you've been laid off. Could you expand on that?
Sure. One of the things that we noticed in the work that we did and the interviews we did was certainly that emotional roller coaster that everybody goes through. That's normal. And that's the important thing to remember. It's normal. And I want to thank Linda and Paul both for phoning in, because they were great to talk about their situation. Linda sounded like she was in that discouragement phase at this point, and Paul talked about having been through that and then put your chin up and be determined that I'm going to move ahead and be positive about it, and you come back up the other side. And you can do that. And it is one of those things that you can't control whether you got laid off, but you can control how you react to it.
Can you really, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Because for a lot of people, we're all different types in this society, and we have people who are veritable Mr. Spocks and seem to be in command of every emotion, and other people that think very directly from the heart. And
Yes.
I just wonder if that's another one of those prescriptions that, you hear it, you understand it, but putting it into action and controlling those negative feelings, very difficult to do.
Oh, it is very, very difficult to do. But the reality is, it is a state of mind. And, what I always like to tell people is, it's like a tennis ball. Once you hit ground, you've got to come right back up. Yeah. And how do you do that? So that's one of the questions. And one of the people we interviewed in the book, Pat, he said he'd pull out his resume and he'd review, what are all these great things that I've accomplished in my career?
Right.
So start focusing on all of those great things that you've done, all of those things that gave you energy, those moments in your career that were the highlights. And when you start to focus on the positive, then you just naturally give yourself the energy and the the determination and the persistence to continue on.
So if you